Hi, I'm Susie Morgan. I'm Precision EMDR's founder and director of training. And what I want to talk about today is attachment. And for many of you, some of this will be review because you have learned about attachment in grad school, and perhaps you've gone on and done extensive additional training, maybe with Dan Siegel or maybe with EMDR professionals who provide advanced training with a focus on attachment when using EMDR. But I want to take a bit of a moment and do review because I want to make sure that that there is a common language and a foundation for understanding what I'm suggesting in terms of the ways that we actually can create a case conceptualization and a target sequence plan that allows us to strategically address those attachment strategies, those attachment styles that are creating difficulty in our clients' adult lives. And so I think we need to start back at the beginning. So that's where I will start, is back in childhood and really understanding the major types of attachment strategies that we see. And then I want to move that into adulthood and say, okay, how does that look in adulthood? And how does that look in terms of the symptoms that our clients might be presenting with in terms of their relational difficulties? And then how then do we take that one step further and know how to strategically target what we need to target in order to move the needle in terms of those attachment-oriented symptoms? So I want to take a moment though and comment on the word style versus strategy, that sort of thing, because in the field, there are different terms that are used for childhood attachment versus adulthood attachment research studies. And then also there is a commentary by Dan Siegel that I just found really I really resonated with it because he said that it really made more sense to refer to the types of ways in which a little nervous system or an adult nervous system will manage attachment as a strategy versus a style, because this isn't a change of clothes. This isn't like, this feels cool one day, this feels cool another day. No, they're actually strategies. They're adaptations to the environment that a little human is in order to make sure that they are able to maintain enough care by their caregivers to survive. So basically, attachment is essential for a little mammal survival, and humans obviously are little mammals. And if a little mammal is in this world and their caregiver ignores them, neglects them, or actually realizes they're much bigger and much more powerful and therefore can hurt them or even kill them at worst, it is a life-threatening issue for that little mammal survival. And so there are, in healthy relationships between infants and caregivers, obviously you have this urge from the caregiver to protect, to nurture, to attune to the little needs of, or the needs of the little human, all of that. And to make sure that that little human just feels secure and knows they're secure. And if that's the case, that little human doesn't have to work hard in order to preserve their safety, basically, to preserve their own life. However, if there is a caregiver, because of their own character or their own abuse history or their own trauma or whatever it might be, or because they're incapacitated in some way, that little human needs to figure out, what do I need to do? What strategy do I need to use in order to elicit the type of care that I need and not elicit harm? And this isn't something that's done with thought, obviously. It is done instinctively by the nervous system based on perhaps the temperament of that child and the situation with that caregiver. And actually the strategies that are adopted can be different based on, this caregiver is like this and will get more mad if I am crying more and less likely to meet my needs, versus this caregiver, if I cry harder, I will be more likely to get my needs met. So the nervous system is so smart in order to adapt to the situation in order to preserve survival. And for mammals, relationship is survival. And even as we move into adulthood, although I don't want to fully fast forward there now, we do see that health is better, longevity is better, well-being is better when we have secure attachment relationships. So this really does matter, not just in a lovey-dovey sort of way. It's not just about feeling good. It's actually about our whole being well and being good. So let's go back to early attachment. So you have these little nervous systems that are secure. And what that looks like is there is a sense of, I know my needs are going to be met and I can cry and that's okay. And that's a signal and my caregiver cares about it and will respond and meet my needs. And then in these other environments, there are non-secure attachment strategies or styles that develop because they need to be different in order to manage the situation. So one of the studies that you're also probably very familiar with is this infant strange situation study. And this is the classic early attachment study. And in this study, the overarching environment of the study is that a caregiver is bringing a small child, maybe a toddler, into a room that has, a friendly stranger, which is the researcher, and it's a room full of amazing toys. And then what happens is that caregiver leaves the room, and what is paid attention to in this study is what happens when that caregiver comes back. And so if this little human has a secure attachment style, what happens is they see their caregiver and they're like, oh, yay, it's you. They get excited. They do have a little bit of distress first when that caregiver left, but upon their return, they're just happy about it. But then they immediately go back to the toys and they're just like, I'm good. You're back. And these are cool toys. And there's just this sense of like, it's okay. I am okay. And you've got me and we're good. And so I can go explore, which is that thing that Dan Siegel talks about, where secure attachment is this idea that you have a secure base, but also a launching pad. So because I know you've got me, I can go explore. And so that is ideal. So on the other hand, what we see are some other really concerning patterns when there is a non-secure situation attachment-wise between the infant and the caregiver. So one is really seen as an anxious response. And so what I'll be doing here is using, I think, less clinical terminology, less the official research kind of categories here, but more the ones that I use when I'm talking with my clients, because it's not that they can't handle the actual terminology. It's just more user-friendly, I think, and more approachable and just more, just easier to use a more approachable terminology rather than all of the specific multisyllabic words that are used in the research to describe the different attachment strategies. So basically we're looking at anxious, avoidant, and disorganized for the non-secure attachment strategies in this little blurb I'm giving you. So with anxious, the little one is highly distressed when the caregiver leaves and stays highly distressed when the caregiver returns, clings, cries, and will not be soothed, and absolutely has no interest in those toys. And then for the avoidant infant, what happens is their little nervous systems are just as agitated, just as upset as those little anxious little ones. However, you wouldn't know it by looking at them. So the only way you know this is because the researchers are measuring everything from their heart rates to their probably heart rate variability to, I think, even like stress hormones in their urine, things like that. So it's a very thorough type of study that's been done on this over the years. And yet the anxious attachment strategy is to show the distress more, to ask for more, and to ask for more reassurance. Whereas the avoidant strategy is to show no need, to show that this is fine with me, I'm fine. And so that little infant just stays focused on, or the little toddler just stays focused on the toys. They're like, I got toys, I'm good. Almost doesn't even appear to register that caregiver came in and out of the room. And then you also have this whole category of attachment that is disorganized. And we usually see this in situations where the child has been in more of a chaotic and more highly abusive situation, and so the nervous system is really unsure of what exactly to do. It has a lot of conflicting types of impulses, and to break it down, it's because on one hand they are feeling unsafe, they're feeling nervous in this situation, and so they naturally want to cling to their caregiver as their source of comfort. But because their caregiver has also been a source of harm, their brain stem, their instinct is to move away from the caregiver because it's not safe to be with the caregiver. So it's this push and pull of like, I need a comfort, I'm not safe, except you're not safe. And so the nervous system doesn't know what to do. And so what you see with these little infants is this really kind of strange type of contradictory reaction where they will hold on to the caregiver, cling to the caregiver, but look away and lean away and not be soothed. Or they will, seem really excited when that caregiver walks in the room and then collapse to the ground. Like there's just this like, I don't know, but I need safety, but I also need comfort, and you're my person and all of that. So it's a really difficult thing because those strategies, there's just no winning in the situation, really. So then we fast forward and we have our clients coming in as adults. Now, sometimes because nothing really changes the equation, a child who starts out with an attachment strategy that is secure will stay secure throughout lifetime. Anxious will stay anxious in their attachment strategy throughout their lifetime. Avoidant, disorganized, whatever it is, like it just stays static. However, what we have seen is that relationships can change things for the better or for the worse. You can see attachment strategies get more secure or less secure as the case might be. And so when our clients are walking in, I think it's really important for us to kind of know the trajectory of what it's been like throughout their lives as much as we possibly can. And what we're going to see with adults are really parallel manifestations to what we see with children. So with security, we see people who are, typically not coming for therapy with us, to be honest, unless they've been through some kind of like car accident or natural disaster, some kind of impersonal type of trauma. But typically, those who are coming in and who have a lot of interpersonal trauma, relational trauma, there's typically there's a non-secure attachment strategy involved there. So when we're seeing these adults, if they are coming in and they do happen to have a secure attachment strategy, what we see is that they're able to talk about relationships in a way like they really matter. They're really able to value the people they are close to, and they're able to evaluate kind of the happenings in those relationships with a level of objectivity. They're like, these things are healthy, these things are not so good. And if something is really harmful and it just feels like this just isn't going well in a way that it's just not able to repair, it's not able to become respectful or close in ways that are really healthy, it's okay for me to walk away. I will be able to find love again. I will be able to find friends who do show up for me in ways I need them to. And I will show up for myself. I've got me in the meantime. And so that's what we've got with Secure. And ultimately, that's our goal with treatment, I think. But a lot of our other clients are coming in with one of these other attachment strategies. And I'm going to set the disorganized aside because I think that there's a lot there that involves both the anxious and the avoidant as with those clients, but also they are much more complex to treat, and we have to do a lot more stabilization. So what I want to do is simplify what I want to talk to you about and just focus on the anxious and the avoidant and what we're seeing there and examples of that. Because in the disorganized, we can see a mix of all of these things. So in anxious, what we're going to see are these behaviors that are really designed to focus on keeping the relationship by seeking reassurance, and oftentimes by giving in to things that don't feel good, staying even though things feel harmful or neglectful or things like that, and contorting oneself in order to make it work. And the goal is I must be whatever I need to be in order to keep this relationship, and I must subsume my needs so that you feel like your needs matter, so we can stay together and I don't lose this, because losing that relationship feels life-threatening. And there is no sense that I've got me or I'll be okay. And then with avoidant, what we'll see is just a dismissing of the importance of the relationships. We'll see almost like a commodity kind of attitude where it's just like objectified. Like, I can take this one, and, if they don't serve my purposes, if, there's like, I can replace them with another, if there's too many issues here. So it's really just this dismissive attitude about the importance of relationships. It's a dismissive attitude about the impact on the other of that process. And also there can be an othering in terms of blame for things like this other person needs to change what they're doing. They're too difficult. They're too this, they're too that. They're all the things. So I am justified in just walking away, and I'll probably get over it in 2 days. So there's just this like checking out from it. Doesn't mean inside, just like the little one, doesn't mean inside they're any less distressed than the anxious one, but that is not reaching their presentation and oftentimes not even reaching their cognition. But when they have done studies, typically with the adult attachment interview, which is basically the gold standard for studying attachment strategies for adults, they see exactly what they see with the babies. That nervous system says it all, even though the outward appearance and the words say the opposite. So what do we do with this in EMDR? So I think one of the most important things we need to do in case conceptualization is think in terms of these attachment strategies as solving for a problem. And we think of the problem as, what is that core negative belief that client has about themselves that is driving the strategy? So what have they learned from their attachment trauma? Is it, I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough, I'm worthless? Or is it something like, I'm not safe in relationships, there's no one I can trust? Any of those things. Sometimes I see powerlessness with these things, but typically I would say in my 20 years of doing this work, I really feel like this attachment trauma tends to land in that lovability type of category or the safety type of category, or both sometimes. And so what we want to do is we want to say like, okay, what is that underlying negative cognition that this attachment strategy is solving for? But then also, what is that? How do we understand that solution? And so we want to think of this as a memory network that has that trauma and that pain in it, but also a memory network that has this solution in it that's more behavioral, that says, in order to solve for I'm unlovable, I must do this. In order to solve for I'm not safe, I must do this. And so it might be something like, I must consider everyone's needs more than my own in order to be lovable. I must not need anyone in order to be safe. Whatever the case might be. And so the more we can really understand those two layers, the underlying negative cognition and then the behavior, the better we could actually develop out a target sequence plan that allows us to treat both and allows us to really shift to the underlying belief as well as the behavioral response that is really symptomatic and causing problems for our clients. So I am so glad you joined me, and I hope that if you have questions, if you have comments, that you will share them in the comments or hop on over to Instagram or Facebook and follow us at Precision EMDR and comment and engage there. You're also always welcome to email me, Susie@precisionemdr.com. And I just love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear what other questions you have on your mind about attachment and EMDR, because I'd love to speak to them. And if these are things where you're like, I really want to dig more into this, this sounds really interesting. These are the types of things that we really dive deep into in Precision EMDR's courses. We lay foundations of that in our basic training, but in our advanced training, we dive deep into it and we go into the nuts and bolts of the how you actually do these different things. So we're always available for more if that is of interest to you. So I hope you have a wonderful day and that you tune in next time for our next video.